Pestilence, war, famine, death. Spin the wheel. Which one are we landing on today, internet friends? Can't breathe through my nose today because of pollen, but still doing this recording, so I don't want to see any comments saying I've been replaced by some other broad with a nasally voice and it's not me. It is me in all my glory, and yes, you got it. Clippity clop clop, the horsemen don't stop. Famine. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about famine. More specifically, governments around the world have announced that we will be facing food shortages soon, but hey, don't worry, they got this thing all under control. They have your best interests at heart. Don't sweat it. Why do you look nervous? Just sit back, watch some Netflix, have a sip of your White Claw, and take a deep breath, dear citizen. Just have a scroll through TikTok. We saved you 16 cents on hot dogs last 4th of July. You think we're gonna let you starve? Last week, on the same day actually, President Joe Biden and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talked about impending food shortages. During a press conference, Trudeau warned food shortages were on Canada's horizon. He blamed global supply chain issues and that pesky little old war in Ukraine for these problems, saying, quote, "We've seen disruptions of supply chains around the world, which is resulting in higher prices for consumers in democracies like ours, and resulting in significant shortages and projected shortages of food, of energy in places around the world." End quote. Like I said, on the same day, President Joe Biden said that food shortages are gonna be real and that it was largely due to sanctions imposed on Russia. Isn't this the same fella who told us that this past winter all the purebloods were gonna die? Well, it's spring, baby, and we're still kicking. It's also just amazing how much this Ukraine-Russia conflict is fair game to use as an excuse for, anything. High gas prices? Your grocery bill skyrocketing? Crime rates escalating in your cities? Gimpney. You know who to blame. It's those dirty Ruskies. Can I use that slang on here? I bet I can. I can discriminate against white people on here all I'd like as long as they're white. You know what I mean? Like white. Russians are white. Any other flavor you can't say anything else about without getting canceled. What are you, a bigot? Yes, it's Russians, rapid-fire printing dollar bills over at the Federal Reserve leading to hyperinflation. Making you cry like a little baby in the aisles of your grocery store. It's Russians. They did it. It's them. Yeah, totally. Now fight about whether or not mediocre men should dominate women's sports. Bigot. Anyway, I told you months ago that they were sabotaging the supply chain, or maybe I asked whether or not y'all thought the supply chain was being sabotaged. I seem to remember that you did think so, and I shared my personal opinion that the ruling class wants these supply chain disruptions because supply chain disruptions benefit government in the sense that in times of crisis and in times of shortage, government can step in, impose mandates, laws, whatever, and control large sectors of what was formerly considered the free market. And I summarized that the whole series of action, the aforementioned action, would certainly lend itself to the goals of the Great Reset, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Such crazy timing, all of this Agenda 21 stuff rolling out in the year 2021 and still going strong in 2022. It's just the perfect storm of all these circumstances. So let's take a closer look at some of these circumstances, coincidences, some might say, contributing to these food shortages. We can't forget to lay the foundation of manufactured crisis, of COVID lockdowns that forced small businesses to close while leaving Amazon and Home Depot and Walmart open, but inevitably put strain on the production line where workers had to be tested each time they showed up for work or were fired for not getting the vaccine. Furthermore, in 2021, the Biden administration announced that it was expanding a program that paid farmers to leave land fallow, or without crops, which was part of a broader government-wide effort to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Agenda 2030, part of the Great Reset. This plan incentivized farmers to take land out of production by raising rental rates and incentive payments. When the Biden administration announced this plan, they were adding 4 million more acres of farmland to make a total of 25 million acres of farmland that is basically unused. During this time, videos circulated from farmers on TikTok and other social media platforms saying that the Biden administration was paying them to destroy their crops. But mainstream media outlets have worked around the clock to debunk this rumor. Even though it's well known that governments pay farmers to destroy surplus crops for the purposes of supply management to keep prices stable at the grocery store. Around the same time, a report came out saying that Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates sealed his position as the largest owner of farmland in the United States. With 242,000 acres of farmland and 27,000 acres of other land across 19 different states, according to the land report. With the largest chunk of his land being in Louisiana and Arkansas, as well as his home state of Washington. Bill Gates, the guy who cheerleaded the whole pandemic, ran a simulation for COVID before anyone knew what COVID even was, with Event 201, who invested in these vaccine companies and funded the efforts to make the vaccine. He's now the biggest farmland owner in the United States right when food shortages are announced on the horizon? No, nothing to see here. Nothing suspicious at all. Earlier this month in Iowa, they reported a surge in bird flu cases that resulted in killing 5 million egg-laying chickens. Earlier this year, a turkey farm was taken out for the same reasons. They say that infected birds have been found in at least 24 states, and the virus has been circulating and migrating waterfowl in Europe and Asia for nearly a year. So they're killing all these chickens, and the prices of fertilizers are already at 40%. And now with the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, it's really heating up. It's looking grim because Russia and Ukraine make up more than 30% of the global wheat market and are considered the breadbasket of Europe. Many African and Middle Eastern countries source over 50% of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine. About 400 million people are dependent on Russia and Ukraine for food. Because of all these circumstances, wheat prices are up 21% and barley is up 33%. Wartime profiteering, am I right? And let's not forget that even before the war, grocery store prices were at an all-time high everywhere. But don't worry, the fine people at Bloomberg have offered us a solution. In the form of a tweet that got ratioed to hell and back, recommending using lentils instead of meat, switching to public transportation, avoiding buying things in bulk. The author of the article they linked recommended that families who earn less than $300,000 a year embrace a vegetarian diet and, quote, rethink those costly pet medical needs, end quote. Just go have all your family pets euthanized. It's that simple. Children won't go hungry if you just go have your cat put down and you start your steady diet of Soylent Green, cricket burgers, and cockroach aioli. Don't worry, you can still have your free Krispy Kreme as long as you show them your passport for your 8th booster. In all seriousness, be prepared, but I don't think you should excessively worry and go raid the grocery store if you live in the U.S. We're a huge exporter of food, and we run on corn, meaning that the livestock is predominantly corn-fed, and there's a lot of corn to go around. But I think what we're actually about to see is that poorer countries will be pushed even further to the brink of destabilization with food shortages. But also keep in mind, if food prices exceed a certain average income threshold, riots and instability will be close by. Since the average citizen is being forced to spend this huge chunk of their income just to eat, just to survive. So that's the average income person. Imagine what it's like for lower income people. We lootin' the Winn-Dixie tonight. Listen, for real though, if I see you sliding a jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread in your purse, you think I'm saying anything? You trying to feed your children? I'm not saying anything. I didn't see nothing. Food prices have gone up since the beginning of lockdown, and we're watching gas and energy prices rise, and housing is insanely expensive, and the inflation they said was transitory, well, isn't. That money you've been saving up for years is worth less and less as the days go on, but wages haven't caught up to these rising costs, the higher cost of living, and that's the reality of wage slavery. After all, it was Henry Kissinger who said, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world." And that, internet friends, is where we land on the solutions portion of this video. A rare segment in a really graceful video, but important nonetheless. And it's about what you can control. What you can personally, tangibly control with your own two hands. Because there will always be war, there will always be greed, there will always be evil people who want to rule the world. And there will always be news stories reporting all of this with agendas we've only begun to understand. But you you personally can cultivate skills to help yourself and your family live outside of their system. And it might seem like such a little insignificant thing. People will belittle it in the comments, learning how to grow a vegetable garden, using herbs to make your own medicines, raising backyard chickens for eggs to barter with your neighbors. Things like that, but it's actually really important. It's a big thing you can do to supplement what you already have and earn a little freedom from the system along the way. During World War II, the U.S. encouraged citizens to plant victory gardens as a patriotic duty, as the surplus of vegetables produced by these gardens helped offset cost and lowered the price of vegetables used to feed the troops. So every family had a little garden, working with what space they had to produce what they could, eat what they grew, and canning the rest for winter. Of course, there are plenty of people who still garden to this day, but a lot of us are so removed from our food and how it's made. And maybe our parents didn't teach us how to do these things because their parents didn't teach them, so we don't know where to start. But literally all you need is a plot of tilled soil or some buckets from Home Depot with drainage holes at the bottom, and you can make your own soil mix, whatever, and go to town. You can start plants from seed. You can buy your plants, which is more expensive. I mean, I buy mine from a neighbor who has a greenhouse, but if you take care of your plants, water them, love them, do what you gotta do, you're going to have a return. And that's one less thing you're buying from the grocery store. And you can grow a lot, even an herb garden on the balcony of your apartment from the back deck of your house. You don't have to have a ton of space. I'm sharing pictures on the screen right now of beautiful gardens that belong to our internet friends. My whole point is, yeah, there are probably some items you can't find at your grocery store right now that you wish you could, but things aren't that bad yet. Why not take this year to learn these necessary skills when there's no heat on you and you don't have to get it right the first time. So you can get some practice in case hard times are around the corner. That's what you should do this year. It's been a lot of trial and error for me personally over the last few years with gardening. Just basically learning what does really well in my area, what's high yield, what I'll actually eat, those sorts of things. I like stuff that I don't have to plant every year. I like blueberry bushes. I like blackberry patches. I like fruit trees, and my house came with like 5 or 6 fruit trees, so established one, so I was really lucky. But it's been a learning experience figuring out how to can and save those fruits so there's no waste. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some helpful resources below if you are new to gardening or you want to know what gardening channels I watch on YouTube or TikTok. They'll be listed below. And if you do have a garden or you choose to garden this year, definitely share your pictures with me. I love seeing them. Anyway, internet friends, that's all I have for you today. Please leave me your thoughts about the food shortages. You know, I always look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and supporting my channel on Patreon. Bye.